Thank you guys so much for stopping by the channel. Today we have Morgan Lucas of Lucas Oil. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Morgan Lucas, the newly appointed president of Lucas Oil Products. My parents founded the company back in 1989 and grown up around it. Spent some years racing. Grew up like most kids, playing video games and screwing around and bothering my parents and learning about the business all at the same time. And personally, I just enjoy life and happily married with 2 kids and just proud to be on the show right now.
Thank you for being here. So you said you grew up around the business, and I know that after you retired from racing, you went and did some work with the head of sales for Lucas Oil. Can you tell us a little bit about what drove you to that?
I kept trying to understand, coming out of motorsports. I've used the joke, and it's one of those things where in racing you have to get really good at spending money. You have to become efficient at where funds need to go, having the right personnel, and making sure that you have what you need to be competitive. And I felt like it was kind of a natural progression to go into it, because you have to understand that people need things in life. They need these tangible items, and for us, we developed and created products that really help people save money, try to fix problems for them, do these things. So realizing that, and for me, knowing that I wanted to progress in the company, I felt like really getting to understand the customer and even our end user, what they need, what they expect from the products, was going to be the best pathway to really understanding where we're at from a marketing perspective, as well as basically the direction of the company as a whole, because the world's changing. Just like we were talking a second ago, I'm looking at the camera setup here, I'm looking at some of these things, and the world's changing so fast. And when you're in the kind of the fossil fuel side of the marketplace, you're staying on one side of cutting edge technology, but there's this whole other world, and trying to find ways to make them intertwined is it's tough. But as long as you have good people, you can learn these things and try to rationalize all of it as much as you can. And sales, again, was just a really good platform to just get a really good landscape, kind of get caught back up with a lot of the things that I missed when I was out racing.
Right. So you say being on the fossil fuel side of one side, and then seeing all the new technology on the other. What, if any, plan, being the new CEO of Lucas Oil, do you have to more broaden that horizon with the advent of COVID, pushing things more to the at-home studios like we have here, and into esports and the iRacing specifically?
Well, it's COVID was kind of a big eye-opener for I think everybody in the world, right?
Right.
People get complacent in their life, regardless of whether it's work or their hobbies, their home life, their passions. People constantly, we're in this I think, culture of short-term gratification.
Right.
And I think COVID kind of brought us back to this square. It allowed me an opportunity to really spend a lot more time with my family. I became a lot closer with my sons. We've just, I think you kind of get this chance to re-engage with some parts of life that you forgot about.
Right.
And one thing that kind of really stands out to me is when the rest of the world shuts down, those things that you have at home at your fingertips are right there. They're right there for you. And there's so many people, even I have some gaming scenarios probably not as cool as what you have at home.
No.
But it's for me. I think it just puts things back in perspective, and people enjoy that. I enjoy it. Like I said, I grew up watching it. Actually, Sean Langdon and some of our other friends that growing up, there's an old PlayStation 2 game called Burnout.
Burnout is an amazing game.
And there was a drag racing feature on there. We used to sit in his living room and bracket race and have fun doing that kind of stuff. And when you know that something can bring you joy, but then you could share it with the rest of the world and allow people to be competitive, I think that's a win, especially in a time like COVID. But I think it also kind of, for us, made us more aware of the fact that we really need to reach younger demos.
Right.
And when I say younger demos, I'm talking 35 and younger, because baby boomers, they're not getting younger, right? They're
Right. None of us are getting younger.
None of us are getting younger. Every day, my son asked me that the other day. He says, "Dad, am I older today?" He's 4, so
Right.
give him a little break here. Am I younger or older today? I was like, "Every day you're older, bud." And
Right.
that's part of it.
On the not getting any younger, I remember when your oldest son, I met him 2-3 years ago at the golf tournament that we had yesterday, and just tossing a little foam football. And then yesterday I see him again. 3 years later, he's out on the course with you.
Oh yeah, and that's the fun of it, man. Our company as a whole is very family based. We have a
Right. I know you've welcomed my family and me into the family.
Oh yeah, well that's
as
it.
my
We
wife worked
want
here
people
before I
that
came.
are part of this to feel like that they are really part of the family, and that's a big deal. A lot of nepotism in our company as well, but that's a good thing. If you can find the strengths, there's a good thing there, and I love it. When we have our Christmas parties or our summer events, things like that, we can have everybody and their families together, and we really build it based around that.
Right.
And I think that's what I've noticed, and it's been happening for a long time, obviously, longer than I've realized, but I've seen that even in the esports world, is that people are afforded this opportunity to get together, have these big tournaments and these things that people are congregating, and there's shows, and it's this entire, I guess, economic just pillar in the world right now. And again, it's been fun for me to try to learn a little more about it. And that's when we started doing the iRacing. We're like, man, we have a television network with Mad TV. We need to get good content to people. There it is. And it's all, primarily motorsports based. When we acquired the channel, it was very much a man channel. Girls in bikinis jumping on trampolines. And some people might think that we should have gotten rid of that content, but I think we've classed it up quite a bit.
I think moving forward in even today's society, the proverbial girls jumping on trampolines in bikinis is not the direction anybody really wants to go.
It's definitely
for business moves.
I would agree. We try to be very fair and balanced when it comes to all of our employees, and when you look at something like that, that doesn't bode well for anybody. So at the time, Bob Patterson and his son Jason really kick-started this movement with Mav to turn it into this real bona fide motorsports network, and this is part of my dad's vision. And the way we look at it is we want to give the fans out in the world what they want to see, and plus we're passionate about motorsports, so it's a win-win situation. Right. And I think we actually bit off a lot more than we could chew at the time, but we find a way to grow into it a little bit. We have a good team now, being headed up by Dan Teichscheid out of our Corona office, and we're not closed-minded. I think that's really, at the end of the day, when you asked earlier, Ben, where are we going? And I can't say specifically I know where we're going. We want to continue to grow our automotive aftermarket business, but one thing I can't say is we're going to be open-minded. Opportunities come to people all the time. You just got to know which door to walk through. I'm trying to surround myself with good people that can help us make good decisions. And we are continuing to look at the iRacing side of things. We think that there's a big opening there for racers, people that can't necessarily afford to go out and buy a 53-foot semi and some
so like 90%
chassis
of
stuff.
us.
Yes, exactly, like the real world. But they can still go out, and you got a guy that might have some strange amount of talent, just raw talent, and gets out there and he can prove himself in that setting, and maybe actually land himself a ride in a professional racing operation. It's hard to say what could really happen, but if you stay open-minded to the opportunities, at the end of the day, you can make good moves for you, for your family, for everybody around you, as long as you're willing to weigh all those risks out and think about the long term.
So I've been doing a lot of research into the iRacing side of things and esports, and a lot of the research I did was into websites different racing companies and their websites and their web presence in general. They don't have it. Really, I'll be really honest with you. From a creative standpoint and a content creator standpoint, they don't. It doesn't exist to move into esports. So, do you feel like I feel like Lucas is a step ahead on the technical side of things? Do you think that Mav TV and that biting off more than you could chew really pushed you guys before even everyone else was ready into that space?
Honestly, for me, it was one of those things where we actually have a couple guys that are quality control guys. They're people that are really passionate about motorsports in our MAV office out in California. And I think about a year and a half ago, they're like, hey, we need to get in this space. And I said, you know what? That's cool. Do your homework, figure it out, and see what we got to do. Right. And one of the guys, Charlie, he's phenomenal. Actually, does really well on the iRacing side of things. He has a lot of passion for it. And I don't know if there's anybody that's probably more excited to know we were going to jump in that world, but it's interesting enough. There's a gentleman, Bob Dillner, who's been on the ESPN, Fox commentating / pit side reporting sides for a while, and he really helped segue some of that for us because of some of the things he's dabbled in. But for us, I would like to find a way to make it to where maybe there's a series that we can get behind, and not even for the television content. I think just because we want to show that the people that are engaged in it, that we're passionate about this as well. Right. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I've looked through websites, things, some of the money that people are dumping into steering wheels for the stuff. It's insane now, but yeah. I respect it. I appreciate it. If that's your passion, that's what you should do. Right. I like to fish with my kids when we get a chance. It's therapeutic for me. They geek out on seeing a fish getting dragged out of the water, and right. But that's something we do to bond. And I think as Americans, we all have to find that thing that we like to do, and that's where hopefully this is just one more area as far as from a entertainment business side of what we do. Right. We can expand and but for me, being as tech stupid as I am, I'm gonna have to rely on.
That's why you have friends like me.
Exactly. I gotta rely on the more knowledgeable people around me, and just have some trust and faith that we can do it right.
Right. Shifting gears a little bit, back to when you used to race, sort of, not completely.
Yeah, one of my claims to fame is actually I'm in a video game. NHRA made a video game for PlayStation years ago, and that was one of my few things I could do. I didn't win a lot in the game, so I was definitely not an A-lister, but it's all right. It was cool to see your picture on there,
That's awesome. But being a former racer, do you think that it would be a feasible notion to get even like former racers, current racers, sitting down like in a tournament next to these iRacers and esports competitors as like a team for that tournament?
I think it's completely feasible. There's a lot, and I'm going to step outside the drag racing world, but guys like Kyle Busch, for example. Right. I mean, he's one of the premier Cup drivers out there.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal driver.
Oh yeah, he lets it all hang out. That's for sure. And he, I like that mentality. Very competitive. He's big into the iRacing side of it. I mean, numerous Cup guys are. Austin Dillon's big into it as well. And I think the good thing about most racers is that they understand that they are competing.
Right.
But you have to have a sandbox to play, and some of that comes with it is the business end of it, and that is the fact that you're in the entertainment business. So for those guys, they get to go out and have fun. They're going to engage people that they wouldn't have engaged probably prior to that. So I would think that there's a slew of people. Ron Capps in drag racing, he's big into it. Sean Langdon, J.R. Todd, those guys would all probably jump on it. And what's really cool about this is they're not just drag racers. They love all forms of motorsports.
Right.
I've ran a micro sprints with JR before. You want to talk about a guy that's a wheelman? He's one hell of a wheelman.
Nice. Yeah, so on the esports side of things, I know when things got started up with iRacing this past summer, right. There was a lot of stigma around it because of the things that happened with Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
And that was hard to watch, of how my side of things in the esports arena was being affected by one man's choice. Do you think that stigma hinders iRacing and racing as an esport in general now?
It's tough to say. I would say that there was an old adage, any press is good press, right? But
that's not true.
It's not true in this case, provided that. Kyle, I'm not going to defend his actions by any stretch of the imagination. Right. But what I will say is that what I've known from Kyle is that's not part of his character. It sounds like he made a really bad decision. But it
Right.
sounds like he's also went through some training courses, some different things with NASCAR, working with them,
Right.
set up a foundation, and I think he's really channeling a lot of that energy out of the dirt track. I think you guys won like 30 some odd events out of the 50 he's attended this
Right.
year, and it is sad to see such a talent. You know, I guess a person make a decision like that when they're holding so much talent. But
Right.
at the end of the day, I hope it doesn't have long-term effects on it. I think that it speaks more to the culture. You know, when we decided to suspend our relationship with Kyle for a little while to kind of see if he can remedy the
Right.
situation for himself, to prove that that's not his character and that's not who he is. You know, we looked at all that whole situation. We tried to be objective about it.
Right.
But it's tough. But we did realize that fans, you know, you have fans that said, "Oh, it's a mistake," and we'll never buy Lucas Oil again. And then you have other fans that support what you do, and that's the world we live in right now. It's very divided, and you have to just take the good with the bad.
Yeah,
And,
especially in the esports
Is it?
side of things, it's a very cancel culture
Mm.
type environment. It's very toxic at times. I'm of the personal belief that we all make mistakes. We all make those, even if it's not a mistake, it's a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a mistake is something you do on accident. A decision is something you do knowing that you're going to do something wrong. You know, we all make that bad decision, but we all deserve the opportunity to make amends for that action.
I agree. I think that the world needs a little bit more of a love each other kind of approach. You know, it's really comes back down to it. So many of the problems that we have going on in the world could be fixed with just love, you know?
Yeah.
Thinking twice before you slam somebody behind the back or whatever it is, you know.
Or slam someone to their face.
Or to their face, yeah. You know, there's ways to handle things, but I also think there's a double standard when it comes to things, because it just depends on where you fall,
Right.
maybe with your religious, political, whatever beliefs that are out there. And I think the youth today, they're influenced by this cancel culture in the sense of this is what they know. They've grown up reading it on social media. They're grown to see it. The generation that we came from, in the sense that, not that we're old by any stretch of the imagination either, but you know, when you grow up, I think seeing open-mindedness, seeing people have to apologize and have remorse for things, it makes it more relatable. But whenever you're looking at it through the lens of or behind, I guess, a screen and not necessarily in person,
Right.
you tend to, I think, develop more of a mob mentality,
Right.
rather than this open-minded, you know, what was going on in their life perspective,
Right.
what's happening. Because, you know, even in the workplace, a lot of times when people come in and they're having a bad day or something's wrong, the problem's not at work, it's at home.
Right.
And sometimes that's the flip. Somebody can come home angry and it's because something goes on at work. And
Right.
that displaced energy is, it could be a negative, but I think that if kids today can get past what, you know, maybe their professor's teaching them or something else, and become a little bit more, like I said, loving, caring, empathetic,
Right.
you know, maybe society would be better. And I'm sure it's not what the interview was trying to do, is get me up on a soapbox, right? But point is that, you know, as a company, we try not to take a permanent position on things, because we do want to stay open-minded. We don't want to alienate ourselves, and not from a lucrative standpoint.
Right.
This is really, we just look at it that everybody in the world has their own opinion, their own beliefs,
Right.
and rather than take a stance that will offend or hurt anybody in those situations, that's not really what we want to be about, because we're about making good products. We're about saving people money, and at the end of the day, we want to save you know, a conservative just as much as we want to save a liberal money. You know, we want to take care of everybody. We don't care. You could be Christian, atheist. We just want to make sure that everybody in this world is taken care of and looked after. And my dad, coming from a place of necessity, when he built the company, coming from, I mean, he developed the products because he was trying to fix his own problems.
Right.
And that's really how it all started. And knowing that he was that working man at that point in his life, he can relate to them that much more.
I think I've sit and listened to your dad tell me that story 3 or 4 different times. And every single time I get goosebumps, and I'm like, man, you literally came from nothing
my dad would kill me,
So-
but he's kind of like a
fix.
Jed Clampett kind of background. You know what I mean? Like he had a problem, he was solving it, and next thing you know, he struck oil, right?
Right.
But
Well, oil additives.
oil additives, yes. He's such a real, just common sense, brilliant person, and I've enjoyed my time getting to work around him. Yeah, where I said I'm tech stupid, my dad's just tech agnostic, maybe. He understands there's a need for it in the world, but he still doesn't have he doesn't.
Right.
It's funny little story, and he'll be mad at me for telling this one, but they put a computer in for in his office, so our graphics team could take control of the computer and show him different things, and he can kind of go through and point out what needs to be worked on. He's very involved in all those things still.
Right.
And I remember one day I was there, and he goes, "Check this out. I know how to turn on my computer." And he wiggles the mouse, and the screen pops up. And I got a crack at him because I was like, you know what?
Oh,
in his mind, that's all he needs to know, because for
Yeah.
him, he looks, like I said, he knows there's a need for it, but for him, he's better working on his flip phone,
Right.
talking to people, telling him what to do, and working through problems. And I respect that about him.
I greatly respect that about him. But going back to the cancel culture
Oh yeah.
kind of question that we had there, I was leading into, do you think, because I've noticed being at like U.S. Nationals as a guest of Lucas Oil and seeing how the teams work, yes, it's a competition, but they also work together. Like seeing someone run over from another pit crew and be like, hey, this wrench just snapped.
I
Can
need
I
this.
borrow
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
And they just, do you think that if racing and racers and these companies can get into the esports arena, that they could help combat that kind of cancel culture with the love that they bring in that community?
I would like to think so, because I mean, anything in life, there's something that's always bigger than just you yourself,
Right.
And that's, I think, how a lot of racers' mentalities are. Is we look at it like we might compete against each other, and maybe we have a grudge because somebody hang on the starting line, but at the end of the day, you're still going to give your shirt off your back to help somebody out, and that's just
Right.
the motorsports mentality. And I do think that is a culture in itself that could carry off in other forms of sports, and even professional football's that way.
Yeah.
And it's different because when you have to depend on others and you kind of create that team atmosphere, that it changes that a little bit. But I think just that camaraderie of being around people on a regular basis that you enjoy, that you get to know them from that family level. Oh hey, we had my wife and kids. We had dinner with this group over here, or whatever. You just it turned into a real close bond, and I think that's what motorsports, and that's what really was good for me. That's what got me hooked on it.
Right.
I loved cars. I love anything to do with fast cars, things like that. But when I was like 10 or 11 when I went to my first drag race, and I was hooked. I got to be close to the action. I saw how everybody was and how they worked together.
Right.
Drivers were never making it about themselves, and if they were judged for it. Harshly, yes. It's because I know at the end of the day, I'm only as good as the people I have around me, and that
Right.
goes the same. Even racing, I had to trust my life with the guys strapping me in the car, the guys putting the heads on the car. You're only one flying piece of metal away from slashing a tire and ending up in the wall.
Right.
So you have to be conscious of the people that you have around you, and you want those people to be good influences on you. You want those people to make you better just like you want to make them better. And motorsports is like that. I think everybody has their secret special thing that they bring to the table. And I think in the esports world, watching some of the tournaments that I've watched online or on TV, that intensity that happens when the competition's going on, you can see it coming out right there when people are, they're talking, working, whatever it is, however it all works out. And even the 7 Days Out program that's on Netflix,
Right.
seeing some of the behind the scenes, that all.
You see the adjust in the seat.
Oh yeah, exactly. The intensity, it's there. That passion is what really I think
Right.
drives that collective group mentality. And maybe as time goes on, people start jumping around from one team to the other. You always have to realize too is that you you might want to go work for somebody else someday. So definitely want
Right.
to burn any bridges. And I like it. I think that it's still in its infancy as far as potential. And I think that, you know, you're probably going to watch this grow into something that much bigger and that much more special. I think anybody realizes, because the world leans into technology. And
Right.
when you can take something that is going to be an obligatory part of life and combine it with something that is fun and something that you could do with your family,
Right.
I think at the end of the day, that's just a recipe for success.
Right. So, final question I have for you. Do you think if esports takes off that you'll get back in the chair?
First off, I thought
Not that chair.
I thought you were getting ready to ask me about my shirt.
I mean, I can ask you about that shirt all day, but there's no
sorry about the
explanation
festive
for it.
Fridays. But no, I honestly, I would love to, and that's actually part of my plan, is to get something at home. I'm going to ease my kids into to gaming because my oldest is 6, he'll be 7 in a couple months, and I'm going to ease him into it. Well, from transition of cell phone to iPad, because
Right.
believe me, they've been beating up my cell phone for a long time. But
Yeah, I
iPad
saw
didn't.
them beating up the iPads
Yeah,
yesterday.
exactly. We made sure we charged them before the event started.
Yeah.
But I found my old Nintendo 64 in storage.
Get them started right.
Got to get them started right. That's all I want to, simplify controller setup, let them get acclimated, and then I got my Xbox One, and then we'll start easing them into the modern gaming. But just watching their minds work and how much they even understand tech at their age that they're at,
Yeah.
just kind of goes to show where we're going to be 20 years from now.
Right.
And I'm going to be extremely tech stupid at that point in time, probably, but I would love to get into it. I used to play a lot of Madden, FIFA, games like that.
I cannot play.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing that stuff. Actually, Sean Langdon, Top Fuel Racer, I hated playing him in Madden because he just had a mind that worked for it, and
Right.
he just kicked my ass every time we play. So, but had a lot of fun doing that growing up. So I hope that I can do that with my kids again. It's a good bonding opportunity. I live in Indiana, so I got about 3 months out of the year where we're kind of stuck inside. So having something
Right.
like that too, that I think can keep your mind sharp and doing things. I personally think that gaming is crucial to drag racing because of reaction time.
Right.
Hand-eye coordination, being able to react and make it second nature to do what you're doing, it's critical. So I think for my kids growing up, they're going to learn actually probably the way the games are created. Done now, Forza, for example, it's
Forza
so
is
realistic.
fantastic.
It's fantastic, and it's so realistic. So you think about getting a car out there and you're drifting, whatever you're doing, I think it'll teach them a little bit of respect for what they're into, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that can come from it. And I probably sound like a complete novice to most people when I'm saying this or whatever, but I look at everything. There's opportunity in chaos, and there's opportunity in anything you do as well.
We have a lot of chaos right
Yes,
now.
we do, and you just have to look and see what you can take from it, and see how you can make something good from something bad. And the good thing is with esports, with iRacing, with just gaming in general, it's just fun.
Right.
Just straight up, it's just fun, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, something that's fun.
I don't either. And this whole interview came from chaos. So.
Yeah, it did. Opportunity, man.
The chaos of COVID brought this interview about. But Morgan, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
For being on the show today, and maybe we'll see you back in 6 months and
Yeah.
discuss how everything has progressed with esports and things. And
Totally agree. I actually was talking to some of our team here. I was like, you need to sit down with this guy. Okay, he knows more about esports than you'll ever know, so you got to figure it out. But I appreciate
I'm not that complete savvy on it. I actually text my manager, like, hey man, I'm going to do this interview. Do you have any extra questions that I can do? Because I have like 6. He's like, do these.
In defense of that, this is one of the best interviews I feel like I've ever had. So
Well,
thank you, and thanks for letting me be part of it.
Yeah, it was great talking to you.
You too, buddy. Seriously.